Hey everybody, I wanted to take a few moments to, maybe that's too much light, to talk to you guys about avoiding a cult. There are several things I would like for you to kind of be aware of, and many of you probably know these types of things, but I realized when I watched Serena Sharpe's interview that if she would have had a little more awareness early on, then she wouldn't have moved from Connecticut to Rexburg, Iowa, Idaho. Oh wow. I followed this case, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, for a couple of years. So I've researched, there's so many tentacles and rabbit holes, but I have researched to see I wanted to be aware of what's happening. So I want to tell you a few things that that hooked people in, and it's fairly easy. It's actually something that people tend to do dating. Um, the first thing is love bombing. If you just think of like an innocent, fairly vulnerable, gullible person, and maybe you're interested in finding out more about what's going on with this prepper kind of movement, which does happen some in our area as well. But the love bombing is what it says it is basically a group of people or two people come to you and say how wonderful you are, how kind, how loving, how amazing you are, and how you've been selected for your mission in life, and just continuing with that. Talking occasionally if they're very receptive, or checking up on them to see how they're doing, take some interest in what is happening in their life, and kind of like a sort of the innocent, how can I pray for you, and what are your struggles. So any cult is working to get you emotionally hooked. They're pulling you in, and people enjoy being listened to. It's one of those deep needs that you have, because we don't always share what things are deep in our heart with those that we know. We typically keep it kind of light and have sort of a fun visit, and throw in some humor, and we don't really normally, some people may do, but it's not common in our culture to dig deep into, hey, what kind of dreams have you had? Any dreams that seem significant? What are your desires? How do you think God may be using you? And just pulling those doors open and intently listening. So that is part of the first hook in any cult. And it's probably what actually keeps people following and asking questions. And so the thing with the love bombing is just to realize it's a normal need to be listened to in a non-judgmental, caring manner. That's why therapy is important in our culture. It is very helpful to be listened to and talk through some of those conflicts that we're dealing with. So the next aspect that begins to be mixed into the love bombing part of, and they may be very passionate, they may appear to be very sincere, and some of them may be very sincere, and haven't really thought through what's going on and how a cult can develop from these types of things. But the next thing that happens, the next thread that gets woven and becomes woven very tight, is that they introduce fear, because fear is the next emotion after love and importance and caring, being concerned about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen. And if you think about it just from a basic religious concept in, I'm going to say worldwide religions, but honestly, I haven't researched enough in several to actually share that with confidence. But fear is not something that, fear is not from the Lord. So basically, fear leads to pressing things becoming more, I'm not sure if I should use the word evil, but darker. It's a deeper hook. You start talking about, oh, the end of the world's happening. We need these people. How are we going to find this 144,000 that is talked about in the book of Revelation? So that becomes the next concern. And what I was watching with several of these interviews, after a while, they became very pressing and letting these people know, you've got to get to Rexburg, Iowa. It's going to be a safe haven, and listing all the prepping that you need to have in place and ready, because that's a place that's going to be protected in their belief system. And so when you put that into play in your life and you think, oh my, we're not going to have enough water. How much water do I need? Those are things that are contrary to trust. And it even developed to the point with several people. From what I understand, this preparing the people conferences were basically talking about prepping and how you need to kind of store up some food and some things that would be fine to think about the future, and how would you, as a more survivalist and being self-sustaining, how would you collect rainwater and just the processes and what you can do about that. But with those conferences and the large groups of people that were meeting together, that fear began to weave its way into an entire group of people. So that, to the point, from one interview that I watched last night, to the point of saying, okay, you're going to get the call. It's going to happen. And if this comes through, say an emergency text on your phone to a group of people. When this comes through, kind of like what a firefighter does, is you jump, you get into your boots, you get everything organized so that you feel protected from this dangerous, tumultuous time that we're on the verge of. So as that progressed, and as cults progress, there is, just be aware that the love bombing will feel very good. It will reach into that pride of being somebody on this earth and somebody that's making an impact for good. So that's always going to feel wonderful. But be aware of what's going on. Then really be watchful, mindful of the fear, and that develops into the high demand groups that try to control your behavior and control the information that comes to you, rather than kind of checking out that information with a variety of people and how they feel about these things happening. And just from my own insight, I feel compelled to share that I am not part of a prepper movement. I do work toward figuring out ways to be sustainable, growing a garden. I do that for fresh food and for nutrients, and also the joy of growing is exciting. Um, but when asked, let me try to think how it was actually worded. When Jesus was asked a couple things about just getting ready for tomorrow, he offered up the parables, which always help people relate to things in their own life, to the concept of God takes care of the birds. The birds are not concerned about where they're going to eat tomorrow. Like, pretty much trust and don't allow your mind to get heavy and burdened with these concepts of disaster coming. We've got a lot of conspiracy theories that are going around that people keep people nervous. Oh my gosh, this is going to happen, and what are we going to do, and how are we going to prepare, and talking to friends and helping them be prepared because this is coming. But the truth is, we're not going to know what's going to happen tomorrow. Jesus made that very clear, that we're living in today, we're loving today, we're caring for others as those opportunities come, and we're taking care of our own bodies, our own mental health. That's part of trust, and trust is challenging, but trust is always the key to avoiding the cult-like types of situations that people can get themselves in. The cult leaders have a desire to feel like gods and feel like they're sharing their vision, and this is going to happen, and if it doesn't happen, somebody's kind of come between that. And that was an aspect of Lori killing her husband, although she did it through her brother Alex. But she pressed upon them, oh, he's going to have a car wreck, JJ's going to be with them, those kind of things, and pray about it, and casting out these demons, because the New Testament does talk about the Lord casting out demons, and it's something that is really not talked about in mainstream Christian churches. But she found connections to what she was wanting, and at times, I mean, she may have believed these things, and she may still believe these things. We're watching as the trial progresses, and she, if you look at her life through the past, she was in a Texas. It was Mrs. Texas. So for a lady that's married, she was in that contest. Lots of concerns about beauty and how she's perceived and how she's desired and how other women want to be more like her. She's very engaging and full of herself. And those are entertaining people to be around, but it's you can see it's a deadly path, to have a lot of pride and vanity in your soul, that you become wrapped into these types of thoughts and desires. So hopefully this is just a small glimpse into thinking through, keeping your mind, your soul settled into trust, and avoiding groups that can ultimately not really care for you. It's what their mission is. It's what they profess to be called to, and it's in the long run, it's really not about you. It may feel like it's about you, but when those things happen and our chemistry in our body just grows because these people are so loving, so kind, so interested, they will listen. We can pray together. And as that grew, um, those things really got so out of hand. If you've watched and read or listened to some of the interviews, they um, profess to have powers. One, I think it was Serena, that they told her that she had the power of water. How rain is cleansing, and call upon the rain and rid the earth of evil. And seems very innocent and loving. But water is also very powerful. We know with the destruction of hurricanes how people can get lost at sea and find themselves struggling to survive. That water in its greatest sense is incredibly powerful. So she fed into that desire for this person to feel incredibly powerful and feel like the things that this group is doing are part of leading the world into a new earth and a new existence. And that's just a tinge of what I would like for you, and remind myself that let's be aware of these things and how they can sneak their way in. And hopefully I'll give you a little bit of armor to guard against some people that do not have your best interest at heart. Okay, well, let's talk soon.